Hey, what's going on, peeps? Listen up. I'm tired. I'm tired of everything I've been watching, listening, as it relates to race in this country, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and the protests and the looting. I'm emotionally exhausted. I've been getting calls from all kinds of people. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Help me understand. White people, black people, blah. It's just crazy. And so I got to get this out because I can't keep talking to everybody. I can't. Before I do, though, I need to just lay a little wisdom down because I may seem a bit self-righteous in this, and I am. And I'll stand by it because I have a point of view that almost nobody in this country has, and I stand by it. You see, I'm a brother, right? I was born in 1968 to a white mother and a black father. I was put up for adoption in 1968. Okay, now I want you to think about this. Born in 1968, we passed the Civil Rights Law in 1964. So I am the first generation black man born with all my rights. Those of us who were born in the late 60s are the first generation of black people with all their rights. That is a thing. And most of y'all aren't even thinking about that. This country is 275 years old, so whatever it is, since we signed the Declaration of Independence and got our freedom. And even before that, and we have 50 years, one generation. 50 years of one generation of folks who were born with all their rights. Now, my kids were born with all their rights, so I guess you'd call it 2 or 3, but that's how it is. So I want you to remember that. 2, I was adopted. I was adopted by a white family. So go with me here. Born in 68, black. Yes, my mother was white, but now I've been called nigger enough times to know my place, okay? Grew up in the 70s in Boston. In the 80s, to a white family. A super liberal white family, because you know how liberal you had to be to adopt a black boy in 1968. 2, my brother was adopted too. 2 of us. Adopted in the 60s. Super liberal. So what they didn't do, and why this matters, is my white family, aunts, uncles, grandparents, my whole family, my sister was a natural born child, our whole family is white. They never told me about racism. They didn't teach me about racism. They just taught me as best they could about being black and about my heritage. And I remember black is beautiful, and they taken me to the barber. Like my parents could have taken me anywhere, but they got up and took me to a barber so I could experience like these folks did everything they could to help indoctrinate into the black culture and the black world. And so these folks were straight liberal and trying to help me out. My mom moved to a predominantly black neighborhood in 1978 or 78 out of a predominantly white neighborhood, again, to help us get more in touch with being black and who we were. Okay? But in spite of being white, in their efforts to do that, they never, ever taught me racism. They never said, hey, people are going to treat you different. Hey, watch out for the white man. Well, they can't say that because they white. Right? They couldn't say that. They didn't warn me. Now, some of y'all say that's crazy, but no, they didn't do it. They just sent me out into the world and told me I could be anything I wanted to be. They literally sent me out in the world and said, you can be anything you want to be. And that's all they instilled in me. You can be anything you want to be, anything you want to be. You can grow up and achieve anything you want to be. And they never said, but be careful because you're black. I consider that a gift. Because if I had black kids, well, I don't have black kids, right? But if I had been born in the 30s and had a kid in the 1960s, I'd be telling them all about lynching. I'd be telling them all about watch out for the white man. I would have warned the shit out of them, and that wouldn't have been fair because times are changing. I'm setting their mind to stop looking for racism, to watch out for it. I'm actually indoctrinating them this idea that America's out to get them. I was never taught that. I was never taught that. But I was black. I couldn't escape that. So I've been called nigger more times than you could possibly imagine. I was told I couldn't date certain girls' daughters. I was called coon. I was called Oreo. Teachers were always busting on me. I experienced racism as it came to me, as it really existed. So why I'm telling you the story is I see and learned about racism as it was, not as it was taught to me, not as I chose to go into the world and look for it, but for what it really was. for what it was in my life when a policeman kicked my house door down when I was 15, running home from to make sure I was home on curfew, and ran up into my dad's house and downstairs, and this motorcycle cop followed behind us and ran in and kicked the door down and said, you see two niggas run through here? And my dad's like, yeah, those two niggas are my sons trying to get home on curfew on time. I saw it. So everything I say from here on in comes from a perspective of, I wasn't taught racism. I didn't have to carry the negative, horrific legacy that other black families had to have, which is awful, and I can't even understand what it's like to carry that legacy. It wasn't taught to me. I didn't have to carry that. I didn't have to bring that baggage into my life. I had white people who actually bestowed their white privilege on me and spared me from that. So when I talk to you about racism, it is accurate. So no, black people, you can't tell me it's a certain way because some of it was indoctrinated you and it's not what it is. And white people, you cannot tell me what you think it is because you ain't black. So yeah, I'm going to piss a lot of people off because I actually have a perspective that is rare. So listen. Listen, because we're all fucking up. Every single one of us. First, when I told you white privilege is a real thing, my family bestowed that upon me. It was a gift. I'm not going to be embarrassed for it. I feel lucky, and because of it, I think I can help young brothers and sisters, which I've done throughout my entire life. I can demonstrate that we can accomplish more, but I got it. White privilege number one. My grandfather, white grandfather, was the manager of the general manager of the B&M Railroad in Massachusetts for like 25 and 30 years. Got a big pension. He and my grandmother lived very well. They were frugal. And so when he died, he left me money. That money helped pay for college. That helped me pay off bills. Oh, that got me into my first house. That got me into my first house. My real father was born in 1938 as a black man. There was no working for the Boston and Maine Railroad. There was no jobs that would allow him to leave money to me or my kids had he kept me. No. White privilege. When I got in trouble, the people would mess with it, and other people would go, oh no, that's Matthew's son. That's Susan's son. Those are Susan's boys. Oh, they're the Keenans. Oh, okay, no worries. So no. White privilege is real and is bestowed upon me, and I recognized it as I got older, and I'm not embarrassed for it, but I benefited from it. So pay attention. Stop telling me there's not white privilege, because there is. And people benefit from it, and it makes their lives better. Black folks don't have that. Black folks don't have that. So here's the deal. Black folks, white folks, police, yeah, I said police too. All of y'all are making yourself victims, and I'm tired of it. Everybody's out of victim. Everybody's trying to outdo one another. All lives matter. Black lives matter. Blue lives matter. No shit. No shit, they all matter. But the reason that all of you are making yourselves victims is because of willful ignorance. Willful ignorance. Every one of you. Most of you white people are around willful ignorance. You don't want to know the truth. You don't want to know what's going on. You don't want to listen to the stats. You want to deny it because you don't want to have any ownership in this. It's not your fault you didn't own slaves. Not your fault you didn't discriminate against anybody. You want to just wash your hands and move on. It doesn't work that way. Black folks, you want to be like, oh, I can't get ahead because society's holding me down. I can't get ahead because of racism. Right? You don't want it. You're willful ignorance. You don't want to pay attention either. Because if you did and you owned it, then you have to, oh, snap, there's things we can do. Some of this could actually be our fault. We're not strictly victims. Holy shit. And police. It's just one or two bad cops. Come on. That thin blue line, it was a movie, I think, for Christ's sake. Everybody knows. Bad cops do stupid stuff. Cops do stupid stuff. Other cops cover them. How many times, and just recently, do we see a video and then go back and look at what the cops wrote, who are supposedly good cops? I don't even call them the bad cops. Oh, was killed. But look what they wrote. It's a complete fabrication. And y'all don't do anything about it. You don't fix the system. And now I saw some cop in New York going off about how you're victims and it's just a few. And blah, blah, blah. Stop. Stop. You're not victims. You got to clean up your house. And that's what the rest of this message is. I'm tired of everybody's willful ignorance and their inability to own their own shit. I'm going to start with you white people. Yes, racism is real. Yes, you have a benefit in this country. Yes, white privilege is real. Yes, it makes it harder for black people to be successful and live. It makes it harder. Go do your homework. Read the new Jim Crow. Look at how police presence in black neighborhoods makes criminals out of black people. I'll cut it down because there's so much I can't do it all, but go do your homework. Black kids are more inclined, even though white kids and black kids smoke the same amount of dope, black kids are like 3 or 4 more times apt to get arrested and have to deal with that shit than white kids. Why? Because police are always bothering black kids. I saw more drugs in my life in college, a predominantly white college, around predominantly white fraternities, than I ever saw in my life anywhere else. Ever. Before or after. But the police ain't busting in on some all-white college, all-white frat, and running around starting to look for cocaine and all kinds of other shit. Ain't happening. But they're doing that in the black neighborhoods. Right? So white kids get 10 times more chances. 10 times more chances. A white kid messes up, chances are he's got a second, third, fourth chance. You really, especially if you're upper middle class, I ain't even going to address the poverty issue over my head. I ain't even going to address it. But especially if you come from an upper middle class neighborhood and you're white, you get so many chances, you can fuck up so many times, it doesn't matter. I've seen it over and over and over. You a poor black kid, you're lucky to get one chance. You better run straight and narrow, straight and narrow. All my white friends, I want to ask yourself, how many of you know a kid who fucked up royally, either in high school or college, based on selling drugs or using drugs or maybe even sexual assault or whatever, and now they're out running a perfectly great life, pillar of society, they got the second chance. Black folks don't. But you don't want to know that. You don't want to do the homework. You don't want to know how the criminal justice system is completely stacked against blacks. You don't want to do the homework to know that there was a study that took the exact same resume, everything exactly the same, sent it out to 100 companies, 200 companies with white names on it, did the same thing with black names on it. The white names got 2 times the callbacks. 2 times the callbacks, simply because it was a white name. Everything was exactly the same. And you want to tell me that blacks don't have it out? You want to tell me that racism isn't an issue? Come on, people. But you don't want to know. You want to ignore that stuff or argue it's not real because you don't want to take accountability because it hurts too much. You don't want to know that you're culpable. Well, you are. Because you aren't willing to own it and accept it. And once you do that, then you're part of the problem. We don't start voting in politicians who reinforce this stuff. We don't support people who reinforce this stuff. We don't support laws that reinforce this stuff. We demand change. Inside the workplace, we make change. But if we don't have to own it, we don't make any change. We don't try to break down the systems that are all jacked up because we don't want to know. We can claim ignorance. Here's another one why you're willfully ignorant. Do you know how many times people argue with me about racism? White people argue with me. They literally argue with me. Oh, you're wrong. What do you mean I'm wrong? What the fuck is that supposed to mean I'm wrong? You know what I won't do? If a transgendered person starts telling me how difficult their life is, what I can tell you right now is I'm not going to argue with them. Because I'm not transgendered. I don't have to walk the streets like them every day. I don't have to try to figure out what they're going through every day. I don't have to do that. So how can I argue with them? On what basis can I argue with them? If a woman starts telling me what it's like in the workplace or what it's like to walk down the street and have to deal with catcalls and all that, what am I going to argue with them? I'm not a woman. Who am I to argue? I need to sit and listen and ask questions and empathize and try to understand. Not be willfully ignorant, not to defend some position. If other asshats are treating women like shit doesn't mean I am. It means I can help change. I don't own their business, so I'm not going to deny it. But that's what you do. And it's over it. I'm over it. Stop, people. Go out and learn something, all right? Go out and learn about Tulsa. Go out and learn. Go to the 4,000 blacks lynched in the 20th century. Go learn about the Reconstruction. Do you understand, guys, do you understand that we had Reconstruction and black people were making strides? Literally making strides. And then 1877 compromise, Rutherford Hayes said, okay, I'll be president, but I'll pull the shit out of the South and let you guys have that shit back. And that crushed Reconstruction. Put all black people right back under the thumb of the Confederacy and Southern whites. Southern Democrats to be exact, but that's not the Democratic Party today, so don't even go there, right? Literally, Just put us right back where we were. Then, how about Plessy v. Ferguson? I think in 1895, a Supreme Court says, hey, separate but equal. That's okay. We're okay with that. I want to ask you all this question before I move, because black people, you are not getting off the hook here either. I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think this country would be like today if that Supreme Court had the balls to say, hell, separate but equal? What are you, crazy? Really? Separate but equal? Come on. That's just stupid in its entirety. Just who came up with this thought? No. No such thing as separate but equal. Everybody's to be treated equal, same schools, same water fountains, same neighborhoods, and actually stop that shit in 1895. Where do you think we'd be today? A lot further ahead than we are now. Those two things alone put us where we are today. Just kick the can down the road, and now we're trying to deal with this shit. So go do your homework, white people. Understand how we got here. Learn about Tulsa. Thriving black community. Thriving. Burn to the ground. Learn about Rosewood. Burn to the ground. Okay? 4,000 lynchings. Guys, if you don't think all of that stuff is played a role into where we are today and why blacks have not been able to be as successful and why we're struggling with race relations, you are absolutely crazy and you're not being honest. It's willful ignorance. Stop it. But all right now, black folks, it's your turn. Yes, racism is real. I've experienced it. I told you. I'm called the nigger more times than I prefer. But guess what? It is better than it's ever been to be black in America. We have more opportunities now than we've ever had before, and that's my problem with the black community. We are still holding up leaders who are pushing the civil rights narrative is our number one challenge. Our number one challenge is not external change. Yeah, look, we do need serious criminal justice reform, no question, no question. We need serious systematic reform with police brutality in the police state, whatever you want to call it, right? Absolutely, 100%, like full on board, you got me. But where's our focus on us? Listen, my dad and our parents fought the Civil Rights War. They marched, they got the changes, they got it signed, and legally the system cannot be overtly racist. We changed that. So we needed some time to accommodate, to adjust, I get it. So, but by the mid-'80s, our message should have changed. Our message should have changed from fixing the system to fixing ourselves and capitalizing on that. But we haven't. We don't have leaders who challenge us to fix our own problems, who challenge us to get our shit together. We don't do that. And that's the problem. Do we? Look, I can already see some of y'all brothers and sisters already starting to, like, oh, this nigga doesn't know what he's talking about. No. I already see it coming. But hear me out. Collectively, as leaders, the leaders that we push to the top, whether it be Sharpton or Jackson or whoever, we need new leadership. We need leadership that's going to push us to challenge ourselves so that we stop being fools, so that we stop accepting the thug culture as something to aspire to, as something positive about the black experience. We can't have this. We need, listen, let me walk you through this. How many of you, I'm going to throw out some names. How many of you brothers and sisters know who these are? Ken Chenault. Anybody know who Ken Chenault is? Ursula Burns. How about that? Ursula Burns, right? Bernard Tyson, God rest his soul. God rest his soul. Dick Parsons. Gregory Adams. Any of these ring a bell? Come on, any of them ring a bell? The reason they don't is because we don't celebrate these people enough. And they are former or existing black CEOs of Fortune 500. I challenge you. Here's the test. Go to all your black friends, my black brothers and sisters, and ask them, who are these people? And watch how many don't know. Because we don't celebrate these people. But if these cats and sisters can make it to Fortune 500 CEO, and trust me, that ain't no easy play because the politics in those companies is crazy. I couldn't do it. I don't care how smart I am. I can't play that kind of politics game. That's why I had to start my own business, do my own thing. I can't play that level of politics. But these cats did it. You have boards, you have internal posturing and fighting, and these cats made it. They became CEOs. We can do it. There has never been a better time to be black in this country than today, even though it's hard today, even though it's not perfect today. But no, we're still trying to fight the battle. Our number one priority is the battle of what's keeping us down before we do anything to take care of ourselves, before we do enough to pick ourselves up. That's individual. Now, again, I get it. It is harder. I am not saying it's not. It is harder. But I'm sorry, just because it's harder does not excuse us from trying. Does not excuse us to hold each other accountable. You know what's crazy? Look, you ever see white people and someone says, my son or daughter's not going, my son or daughter's not going to college? White people are like, oh God, is that okay? Are you okay with it? Oh my goodness gracious. How does your husband feel? How does your wife feel? Oh my, they're not, what are they going to do in summer? They're taking a gap year? Right? Like white people freak out. Like you're ostracized. There's a whole culture that says you got to be doing certain things, getting certain type of jobs. That shit don't happen in our community. No. And it needs to. It needs to. We're coming up with too many excuses. Too many excuses for not capitalizing on what we've earned and gained and took back. Listen to me here. This is huge. We've done amazing work to get the shit we're owed back. And yet we aren't spending enough intellectual capital, time, noise, messages, effort on capitalizing on it. We're still fighting for more from the system. And trust me, I get it. Again, I get it. The system needs to be fixed. It's fucked up. But imagine if more of us took advantage of what we got so far, then more of us will be in positions of power. And if more of us are in positions of power, we could fix it from the inside. We're not going to try to fix it from the outside. Yes. So we got to stop people. It's willful ignorance. Black people, you just don't want to know that there were successful people. We don't want to know that we can make it. We don't want to accept that there's actually opportunities for us there because that means we'd have to go get it. And white people, you want to be willful ignorant too. You don't want to know that actually racism is affecting black people and making them have to work harder and undermining their ability to get it and putting more dads and men, black men in prison, which means these kids are growing up without fathers for petty offenses. Literally, guys, go read or listen to the new Jim Crow. It is packed with stats and data to show you how black people, once in the criminal system, cannot get out. Black men are charged with a crime that they didn't do, and the prosecutors make deals that make it much more, beneficial to just plead guilty than rather than risk being found guilty and serving a 3, 4, 5x history. So they accept these plea deals as felons to avoid life in prison of 25 or 30 years and take 5 or 6 years to get out and fight. But they're felons, now they can't vote. They're 5 or 6 years away from their family. It's a cycle that the system is. Black men are sentenced to harsher penalties than white men. It's just, guys, it's crazy. But you white people don't want to know this. You don't want to hear it. Because the minute you do this, then you say, ooh, this could be hard for black people. And now there's an excuse. And now I see what they're doing. And man, I have some culpability in this because I'm part of this system. Oh, that's not me. I don't, willful ignorance. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Get your shit together. You got to do this. I did it. My uncle was an immigrant. He did it. Blah, blah, blah. Stop. Enough with that shit. Blacks weren't immigrants. For 350 years, we were told the American dream is not for us. Push to the periph. No, don't touch the American dream. It's not for you. And then finally, 50 years ago, they said, well, I guess you can kind of have it. But if it makes us uncomfortable, you go too far. We're going to remind you your place. All right, so listen. It's time to stop pointing the fingers. Now, the last one is police. I'm going to be quick about this, but look, police, this trips me out. Look, I just saw some cat going off about how one bad cop shouldn't taint the police force, and they're tired of being yelled at and screamed at and told they're awful, and everybody wants to attack the police and calling them pigs and all this, and he's not going to put up for it because he's not going to let one tiny small percentage of bad cops ruin all cops. Welcome to racism. Welcome to racism. Now you know how black folks feel. I mean, I don't know why it's so hard for people to figure out, right? Look at this, trips me out. Cops are losing their shit because they cannot handle the negative perception and light they're in because of this handful of bad cops. And I'm not even going to get into this lot, a little, I'm not going to do it. But let's just assume it's just a few. And it's tainting the whole police force. And they are losing their shit because of how they're being painted, which is called a prejudice, a prejudge, a prejudice, because of these bad cops. Welcome to racism. And so imagine if you had to deal with this for 450 years. And if your great-great-grandfather was a cop and he was treated like shit because of a few bad apples, and then his son and his son and his daughter and his daughter and his son and his daughter all the way up to you, and all you've heard for centuries is that cops suck, and cops are assholes, and cops are brutal, and cops don't uphold the law, and cops are vicious animals, if that's all you heard, think about how you'd be reacting, because it's only been I don't know, a year, if we want to go back. It's only been a couple years, or just now. Like, you guys are losing your shit because you're being broad brushed. Welcome to racism. I don't know how else to point out that picture. So maybe, just like I told my black folks, right, my people, that they need to get their shit together and start focusing on what they're doing and what they can do to capitalize on the civil rights gains we've made. Maybe you police officers can stop victimizing yourself and fix it. And don't tell me nothing needs to be fixed, because that's willful ignorance, and you know it and I know it. We didn't make you start wearing cameras because there was no problems. Will Smith said it best. He said there aren't more black people being killed by police, there are just more cameras. This isn't new. Own it. Stop playing victim. Stop with the willful ignorance. Own it. Stop fighting groups that want to get more transparency. Yeah, and then maybe it'll get fixed. Then maybe you won't be a victim because you'll fix it and you'll be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So this is long as shit. Half of you aren't even going to get to the end of this, but I feel better for saying it. So here's the deal. Black people, white people, police officers. Stop being victims. Stop it, all of you. All of you. Own your own shit. In spite of the challenges, in spite of the difficulties, because all this shit overlaps. These aren't lanes by themselves. But you know what? Black folks, if y'all stop complaining and stop bitching about everything white people do and stop taking this narrative that you can't make it and start paying attention to where we can make it, what we have done, what opportunities are in front of us, and what we can do as individuals, ready for this? In spite, I'll say it again because some of you motherfuckers aren't going to be listening to me, in spite of the racism, in spite of the systematic racism, in spite of the lack of justice, what can we do? Because Dick Parsons did it, Bernard Tyson did it, Kenneth Chenault did it, CEO of American Express as a kid. He's the person I looked up to. He's there for 25 years. He's a member of Augusta National Golf Club. There's a black dude who is a member of the Augusta National Golf Club. Don't tell me we can't make it. Don't tell me. It's harder, but what are we doing to capitalize it? And white people, don't you say to me again that racism doesn't exist. Don't you tell me blue lives matter and all lives matter and all that bullshit. And don't tell me that you weren't a slave owner and that you're not racist and that you have no part of this bullshit. Go out there and learn something. Go out there and stop being willful and learn something and figure out how did we get here? And what is going on that got us here? And what is making it harder for blacks to rise up and make it? Learn about redlining. Learn about it all. Educate yourself and then ask yourself, how did this get created? And how can I dismantle it? Who am I supporting? My politicians, my friends, who am I supporting and how are they playing a role in this? What is the company I'm doing to help make sure that we have more diversity? Your silence, you cannot sit and be silent and then say you're not part of the problem. You own it. So stop telling black people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps because you didn't have to. And this doesn't mean individual white people didn't have to struggle. Just, I cannot hear all the stupid stuff playing in your mind. Stop it. And then finally, police officers, fix it. Fix it. Stop playing a victim. Boy, you don't like racism. Now you know how black people feel. Welcome to the club. Fix it. Stop being a victim. Say, oh, yeah, we're tired of this. Just a few bad cops and they make us all look bad and we go out there every day and we work really hard. Yes, you do. But you got a problem. Stop being willfully ignorant, own it, and fix it. If we can't do that, that is how we fix this. Stop the blame game. Blacks, stop blaming white people. White people, stop blaming blacks and telling blacks to get the shit together. Police, stop blaming everybody. Fix your own house. Own your own shit. And we might actually make some progress. So y'all, from a black dude born in 1968, who was raised by a white family in the 70s and 80s, who's been called nigga more times than he would prefer, who now has his own business, sitting in Manhattan Beach looking out over the ocean on the Strand where I came for the summer, who's been wildly successful, well, I don't know wildly, but semi-successful, who's had brush-ins with the law but got second chances, who was never taught racism but had to go out and learn it on his own and knows what it really looks like. That's my message to you. That's my message to you. Fix your own shit. All of you. Fix your own shit. And maybe we'll get somewhere. Peace. I'm out.